It's 3 o'clock in the morning. The apartment is quiet. You're asleep. And then, a cry. Loud, shrill, sustained. You leap up. Your heart is racing. You search for her. And you find her somewhere in the hallway or kitchen, alone, disoriented, calling out. When your cat is old and cries out at night, you wake up with a feeling that's hard to name. Fear, guilt, helplessness, and somewhere underneath it all, a deep pain. Because you know something isn't right, but you don't know what. Today I'll explain what's really happening when your old cat cries at night. And I'll also tell you what you can do about it and what you can't. Stay until the end, because the last part is the most important and the most difficult. Let's begin with the biology, because that's where the answer starts. Cats who age often develop a condition known in human medicine as cognitive dysfunction. The veterinary term is FCD, Feline Cognitive Dysfunction. It's, in many aspects, the feline equivalent of dementia. The cat's brain changes, connections weaken, memories become unreliable. And what happens when a being no longer knows where it is? It calls out. The nighttime crying is often not pain. It's confusion. It's calling out into the darkness. Where am I? Is anyone there? And that's perhaps the most painful thing you can hear as a cat owner. Not because it's loud, but because you understand what it means. But there's more, and I want to explain this to you. Before I do, let me tell you something that many cat owners never dare to ask. They sit beside their crying cat at night and think, am I suffering too much? Is this normal? And some think one step further, am I doing this for myself or for her? That's one of the bravest questions a pet owner can ask. And the honest answer is, both are possible, and both can be true at the same time. You suffer, and you love her. That's not a contradiction. Old cats lose their nighttime orientation for another reason. With age, their sleep-wake rhythm changes. The brain produces less melatonin. The inner clock falls out of sync. What for us is nighttime can be a time of confusion for an old cat. She wakes up and doesn't know whether it's night or day. She doesn't know if she slept. She doesn't know if you're there. So she searches. So she calls. That's not ill will. That's a disoriented creature searching for her person. And that's the moment when you get up and find her. I know that's exhausting, night after night. I know you have to go to work in the morning. I know the sleep deprivation is real. And I still tell you, what you do when you get up and go to her is one of the greatest things you can do for her. Because you give her in that moment what she needs, orientation. Your voice, your scent, your presence. That is to a cat with dementia what a lighthouse is to a ship in the night. Suddenly she knows, here I am, here is my person, I'm safe. And the calling stops. Not because the problem is solved, but because the confusion momentarily lifts. And I want to tell you something else that I consider very important. Some cat owners try to structure the night during this time. They feed just before midnight. They play in the late evening. They leave the hallway light on. And some of that genuinely helps. Not for every cat, but for some. Because routine is the only thing a disoriented brain can still grasp. The cat no longer recognizes the time, but she recognizes, this always happens. I know this. And the familiar calms. Even without solving, it calms. Something else can help, closeness at night. Some cats sleep much more peacefully during this phase when they're in the same room as their person. Not necessarily in bed, but within calling distance, within breathing distance. They want to sense someone is here. I'm not alone. That's the most primitive thing we can give, and at the same time the most effective. Now let me explain the most common causes of nighttime crying. because not every cry is dementia. The first cause, pain. Old cats often suffer from arthritis, joint pain, kidney disease. And pain becomes more intense at night because the distractions of the day fall away. If your cat also shows an altered posture when crying, or if she avoids stairs, pain might be the cause. In that case, the first step is the vet. Pain is treatable. That's not resignation. That's care. The second cause, hyperthyroidism. An overactive thyroid is common in older cats, and one of the symptoms is increased vocalization, also at night. At the same time, affected cats often eat more, drink more, and still lose weight. That too is treatable. That too is not a verdict. It's medicine. The third cause, sensory losses. Old cats often lose hearing or vision. When a cat goes deaf, she calls louder because she can't hear herself. And when she sees worse at night, darkness becomes a source of fear. Small changes can help. Night lights, familiar scents, a bed near you. Now comes the part many cat owners don't want to hear. Sometimes nighttime crying is a sign that your cat is at the end of her life. Not always, but sometimes. And I want to tell you something important about that. The aging of a cat is not just a medical phenomenon, it's also an emotional one. You see her physically diminishing. You see her slowing down. You see her becoming confused. And that's a loss that happens in real time, before she's gone. That's called anticipatory grief, and it's just as real as grief after a loss. You're allowed to feel that. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to sometimes not know what's right. All of that belongs. All of that is human. And if the crying is a call, then that call is also a sign of attachment. She calls because you matter to her, because you're her anchor. Because in her confused world, one thing is still clear: you. And if that's the case, then the nighttime crying might be the greatest compliment an animal can pay. And if that's the case, then the crying is a call to you. Not for food, not for toys, for you. It's the deepest call an animal can make. Stay with me. And when you get up, go to her, lie down beside her, you're answering that call. Even when it's exhausting, even when you don't know what's coming. You're there, and that's enough. I want to tell you something now that many pet owners only understand in hindsight. These nights, as hard as they are also nights of connection. You got up at night. You searched for her. You sat down beside her. In the silence of the night, without distraction, just the two of you. That's a form of intimacy that rarely occurs in daily life. No phone distraction, no background noise, no to-do list. Just the two of you, in the silence, with everything between you. I know that sounds romantic for something that feels so hard. But sometimes the most difficult moments are also the most real ones. And the most real ones are often the ones we remember the longest. And many people say, when the cat is gone, those nights, I want them back. Not because of the crying, but because of the moments afterward. When she was calm again, when she purred, when you were both simply there, in the middle of the night. That's not comfort that makes the exhaustion disappear, but it's a framework that gives it meaning. If you're in these nights right now, then I want to tell you. You're doing this right. The getting up, the searching, the staying. There's no right way to deal with the aging of a beloved animal. But there are attentive and loving ways, and what you're doing is both. Go to the vet. Rule out pain and hyperthyroidism. That's care. Create an environment with light and familiarity. That's care. And when you get up at night and go to her, that's also care. Maybe the most important kind, the quiet, invisible, exhausted care. That no one sees but the two of you in the middle of the night. And which counts nonetheless, or precisely because of that. That's the most beautiful thing about care. It counts even when no one sees it. Even when you yourself doubt it. Even when you're exhausted. Write us in the comments. Did your cat have these nighttime calls? And what helped you cope with it? We read every comment, because every experience with this is valuable. For you and for others who are going through the same thing right now. Because these nights can be lonely, and no one should have to live through them alone.